today's session with you. As Ian mentioned, I am Yumiko Hayashi, Director of Product Marketing here at Media Valley. So this session, how marketing managers streamline workflows across the tech stack. It's really meant, as the title suggests, for marketing managers who feel like they are stuck playing traffic control instead of actually running marketing programs. I know you know that what I mean by that. Sorry, here, let's see, is this slide working? Is this you? Are you feeling the same pain that this guy here in the image is feeling? Right? You spend your day routing requests, chasing down files, playing email ping pong back and forth with your team. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted. You can't point to the strategic work that you actually accomplished. So if all that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. For the next 30 minutes or so, I think we're going to walk through what's causing that pain, how high-performing teams that we work with every day are fixing it, and how you can start doing the same without adding more chaos to your tech stack. So as mentioned by Ian, I am in product marketing, but I have held various roles within my marketing career. I started out as a designer, from content creation all the way to campaign management, and then now product marketing. So a lot of what I'm going to cover today isn't coming from just not only what I see today at Media Valley with our customers, but it's also pulled from my own personal experience in the trenches dealing with these exact same challenges. All right, so I'm going to start us off with a poll. So I want you to be really honest here. Let's start with a quick gut check. I want to get a sense of where everyone is at. So where are you and your team hurting the most? So 4 options here. Option 1, you're doing way too much manually. Option 2, your tools aren't talking to each other. Option 3, off-brand, unapproved content keeps slipping through the cracks. And then option 4, you've just simply outgrown your processes. All right. Ian, do we have the poll up? I am, okay. I'm not able to see the results, so if you are.
I'll jump in real quick, Yumiko. So yeah, the number 1 pick was with over 50%. We're just doing way too much manually.
All right. Do we have a second? Oh, second maybe?
Second with 21% was we've outgrown the processes we've started with.
Okay, great.
But clear winner with number 1 though. We're just doing too much manually. Yeah.
Okay. It's great. So I will be honest, when I was starting out this, working on this project here, this presentation, I wanted to see sort of the numbers, the clear numbers for the 4 options. But as I was kind of working my way through the presentation, I was realizing that they're all symptoms of the same underlying issue, right? So we're going to unpack that a little bit today. All right. So we all know all great presentations start out with, what are we facing today? The reality check, right? So marketing teams everywhere are being asked to do more, way more, with basically the same resources they had last year, or maybe even less, right? So according to the latest Adobe business poll, 96% of marketers report that demand for content has grown by 2x over the last 2 years. Right? If you see in this darker blue square here, 2/3 of marketers say they expect the demand to grow 5 to 20 times more over the next 2 years. So I'm going to let that sink in a little bit. 5 to 20 times more. Right? It is a little bit extreme. I'll give you that. 20 times, it's that small 4%. But even if we are being conservative and say 5 times over the next 2 years, that is a massive increase. I'm willing to bet that your budget hasn't actually increased by 5 times, right? So it's not just about the demand and the volume. This survey also suggested that 85% of marketers say they're under the pressure to create more faster. So the net here is You need to create way more content because there's just way more demand. Not only that, but you need to create it faster. So that is the challenge that we're facing. Why does all this content matter? So I'm maybe you've seen this before, but it's because we're, standing out in the sea of noise and it's harder to be seen, right? So I love this visual from Local IQ that shows what they call the Internet Minute. Every single minute, your audience is being exposed to thousands, sometimes millions of content touch points. And it's not just you trying to reach them, it's your competition as well, right? It's also lifestyle content, news. People are getting their news from social media, all the different channels that they're exposed to. So the list goes on and on. So as marketers, what do? We create more content, we launch more campaigns, we post on more channels, and the cycle just keeps going, right? We're constantly trying to break through that noise and it's getting pretty exhausting, right? So narrowed it down to 4 challenges that we all face. So let's connect these 4 challenges to those poll options that we showed you in the beginning. They're all relevant to common challenges that we all face today. So number 1, time constraints. There's probably only one of you doing a specific role within the team or maybe a small team. There's only so many hours in your day. Of course, work-life balance is important. So it's not just about cranking out content fast. The next challenge we see is budget limitations. So like I said earlier, content demands might go up by 5 times, but I'm pretty sure none of you are getting 5 times the budget increase, right, to meet those demands. And then third, disconnected technologies. That's one of the big ones here. We're going to spend a little bit of time on that today. A lot of us have onboarded different pieces of software over time to fix specific needs, right? Whether it's your planning tools, your creative tools, collaboration platforms. We never stopped to think about how these systems were going to work together, right? When we went to go purchase them, we were reaching out to solve a specific issue, but we really never stepped back to see how these tools are going to work together. And then finally, siloed teams and fractured communications, right? So many of us are working remotely. I have colleagues in different countries. You might not even have met some of your colleagues before, right? We're no longer sitting next to someone where we can just kind of lean over and ask a quick question. So now you're pinging them on Slack, waiting for a response, working with different time zones, sending emails out into the void. It does slow down everything. So what does this do for your team? So some bullet points here. What does it mean for your day-to-day, right? So launch dates slip because assets and approvals lag, right? You're waiting on someone to review something, but they can't always find the file. Off-brand content goes live because people grab whatever they can find, right? We get impatient in today's world. Someone needs an asset right away. And so when they don't get that response or when they can't find it, what do, right? They go and either take the latest file that they have maybe in their downloads folder, or they go out and create their own, right? Designers, they spend all their time fulfilling requests instead of producing new work, right? They're not actually doing the creative work. So instead of being creative, they're spending time resizing images or hunting down old files or just, getting to these small tasks. And for marketing managers, people like you and me, we kind of become the router between every request and every answer. Where's that file? Can someone approve this? Is this the one that James worked on last year? You're not actually doing marketing, right? This is traffic control. So I feel bad asking if this all resonates with you because I don't wish this situation on anybody, but let's try to understand why this happens. All right, this is the tool overload problem, and I'm sure you have all seen these images over the years. Marketing has never had more tools available to us, right? Like this is insane. 15,000 in 2025. There's literally an app for everything. So project management, there's 50 options. Content creation, hundreds. Social media, social media scheduling, sorry, take your pick, right? So as much as I wish I could wave a magic wand and give you the perfect combination of tools for your stack, it's just not possible, right? Every organization is going to have their own unique stack based on their needs, based on their team size, their industry, and of course their budget. So here's what I want you to understand at the end of this presentation is that it's not your stack, right? The problem isn't which tools you've picked. The problem is really the handoff between the tools. How are these tools communicating within your process? And what is the engine or the battery that keeps them moving? So that's what we need to figure out. So how do we know it's time to revisit or review your stack? Right? So we put together 4 signs or 4 flags. Sign number 1 is that your team is stuck in the manual work. So this was like the top poll results, right? So everybody is stuck doing a lot of manual work. If your marketing team spends more time hunting for files, going through versioning, routing approvals, rebuilding assets maybe that already exist, your stack is no longer empowering your team, it's actively slowing you down, right? So I've pulled some customer quotes from our clients. One would be, we spend so much time looking for files, we end up just making things up on the fly, right? So that is a huge red flag, right? So flag number 2, your tools aren't talking to each other. So again, I've linked this to our poll option, right? So if we're passing an asset from creative to review to distribution, and that involves an email, starts off with an email or a Slack message, and then a download of a file, then a renaming of a file, and then a deletion of a file, and then another upload, that integration friction is telling you that your stack is too rigid and needs a bit of a review. So another quote that to go with that is everyone on the team is busy, it's hard to get approval right away. So things just kind of lie flat, right? Sign number 3 is that risk keeps slipping through. So old branding, outdated messaging, it shows up in the market, unapproved images, someone using last year's product images, right? These repeated can I use this? These moments of like compliance and governance, these are huge red flags. So if it keeps happening, your stack isn't protecting you or your brand. And then finally, sign 4, right? You've outgrown the system that you started with, right? I think that was the second popular option in our poll. So it's the setup that worked when marketing was maybe 3 people in one region. It gets stretched, right? When you start supporting multiple teams, perhaps partners, different regions and time zones. So outgrowing your original processes is one of the clearest signs that it's time for a stack review. Another quote from our customers is, I've never actually even talked to the team in Germany, right? I have no idea if they're actually using the assets that we've been sending them, right? So 4 flags here, they are meant to tie into the poll options that we gave you at the beginning. So I'm kind of reiterating them here as possible red flags that it's time for review. I don't know if anyone has noticed, but there is one that I didn't actually put on the slide, or I didn't even touch on, and that one is budget, right? Sometimes it's not you that is initiating this review. Sometimes you're getting pressure from the top, right? Or perhaps finance is telling you to do an audit, right? So that would be, again, not necessarily a sign, but a reason to step back and review your stack. So if you are nodding your head, yes, to 1 or 2 or more of these signs, I would say you don't have a bandwidth issue. It's really an infrastructure problem. So at this point, you're asking your team to just work harder or be more efficient. It's not going to fix it, right? The only fix is really tightening how your projects and your assets move across your tech stack. So we need to look at workflows and that connective tissue between all of your tools. All right, so I mentioned this a little bit before, working smarter, not harder. So we've talked about the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. So the good news is I'm not asking you to rip up your entire stack and start from scratch, right? So the solution comes down to three key areas. So number one is streamlining those workflows. Number two, leveraging automations where you can. And then number three, consolidating that technology where it makes sense. All right, so, but before we can optimize anything, we need to understand your content lifecycle. So I'm sure many of you have seen either versions of this image, maybe just, from the web. It's nothing new here, but the content lifecycle at Media Valley, we've broken it down to 6 stages, right? We keep talking about this ecosystem, and so hence the reason why it's a circle, right? It keeps repeating itself. So there needs to be cohesion between all of these stages. And I think I used another analogy, which was like the battery, right? What keeps all of these stages moving? All these stages need not only to connect, but they also need somewhere to connect to. So in comes, of course, our DAM. It's not just about centralizing and storing your content anymore. It's really about powering the DAM, powering all of these stages. So if you can remember that ugly slide that I had on the MarTech landscape, 15,000 tools. As I go through these stages with you, I want you to think about the tools that you are using at each stage of this cycle and whether or not there is cohesion between them there in your workflow. Is it being uninterrupted? Are there perhaps some features that you are not utilizing within those tools that could connect to the DAM? If you're joining us and you, as a customer, and you already do have a DAM, think about how these tools that you're currently using are connecting to it. And if you don't have a DAM quite yet, I'll try my best to kind of explain that cohesion. So I'm going to quickly run through each stage with, and then explain to you how this can all connect back into your DAM. So stage 1 is the planning phase. Where does your content strategy start? How do you align your campaigns with your goals? This is really setting that foundation. So, small teams might just have a content calendar, right? So understanding what content you need, who needs it, and when it needs to go live. If you're using a project management tool, this is where we place it. So the likes of like Asana or Monday.com or Rike, right? Those would be the tools that you would be using in this stage. Stage 2 is the creation stage. So where does your team actually build the content, right? Designers, are working in Adobe Creative Cloud, Canva, Figma, right? These are probably the most popular ones. This is about the creation process itself, where the magic really happens and your assets are brought to life. It's easy to stop here, but part of that creation is the ability to go back into your DAM, right? Are you able to review the existing content before you even start, right? Is there stuff there that could be just tweaked or edited rather than starting from scratch? Stage 3 is your review stage. We need to approve something, a project or an asset before it goes live. How long does that approval process take? This is about quality control and brand governance, making sure the right stakeholders are reviewing that content in the same place. And wouldn't it be great if you could review assets within the DAM, right? Well, there is a tool for that, right? Embedded into the DAM. So again, it's eliminating that download and upload, repeat process again. Stage 4, your distribution stage. How do you get your content out into the world, right? Remember that infographic of the Internet Minute, right? Just thinking about all the channels out there. So where the DAM comes to play here is that making sure that the latest version is available to the right audience and that unimproved off-brand content doesn't slip through the cracks. So those are external channels, but also we have to think about working internally with your teams, right? We talked about teams being siloed in this whole digital world that we live in. Perhaps you have partner programs to help expand your reach, or how do you share your content with your global teams, right? So this is where the likes of portals come in, CDN links come into play. For those who are not familiar with CDN links, they're called content delivery network links. So they help speed up the delivery of web content. But for me, its powerful features the dynamic play of it, right? You update something in the DAM, wherever that link is shared, it automatically will update, whether that's on a web page or on a different portal or a gallery, right? And then stage 5, optimize. Can you see what's actually getting used? What's performing well? What isn't performing well? What's valuable and worth reinvesting in versus what's just sitting there taking up space, right? Without that visibility, you're just creating content in a vacuum. So when connected to the DAM, reporting can be very, very powerful. So not only is it great practice to see what's working and what's not, right? It can also be used to measure the actual ROI of your DAM system. And then finally, stage 6, managing your content. So sometimes that kitchen drawer, it needs a bit of a cleanup, right? It needs a little bit of attention. So can you retire old content so it doesn't seep back into the cracks? Does that low performing content need a refresh? Or could that, highly used pinnacle content be repurposed for something even better, right? Do some of your assets need to be archived, or is it time to delete and move some to cold storage? And yes, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but the DAM platform is going to make that step easy. So here's key insight. If those 6 stages are not interconnected and connecting to a central source of truth, marketing will always feel reactive, right? No matter how many tools you add to the stages. So along the way, there's going to be roadblocks, right? Within the cycle, there are always going to be roadblocks and hiccups, right? It's important to acknowledge that. Truly understand where those roadblocks are happening within your organization. So again, I've pulled some real customer quotes, and I'm going to show you where these roadblocks are happening. So, quote, "We spend so much time looking for files, we end up just making things up on the fly." That is a management problem. So this is where the roadblocks are happening. So remember when I referenced that kitchen drawer, your source of truth needs a little bit of a cleanup, right? So putting some governance in place to help. And if you're wasting time searching, then that is also going to affect your planning as well. Discoverability is hugely important, and it's kind of that connection between 6 and 1. Another roadblock, everyone is busy on the team. It's hard to get approval right away. So where is that roadblock happening? Right, that's happening between 3 and 4, right? So your review and approval workflow needs a bit of tightening. So I mentioned earlier, but what if you could do all of that, the approval, the feedback, the collaboration, all within the DAM, right? We do have tools for that. All right. Last quote is, "We spend so much time policing content. Half the time we don't know what content is actually being used." So give you a bit of a chance to think of your answer, but it is a distribution, optimization, and a managing problem, right? So the lesson here is there are bound to be bottlenecks that are happening even within the tools you have in place. So I just went through a fraction of some of the pains that we hear from marketing managers in various industries. But just as a side note, also, if you were going through the process with me, if you're using a specific tool at every stage of the cycle, then you're looking at a minimum of 6 tools, right? And guarantee you though, your number is likely a little over that, maybe 6 to 8. So it's important to acknowledge that bottlenecks happen. So if we want to iron out a bit of that friction, let's see how our central source of truth can help. All right, I'm just doing a quick time check here. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. I don't want you to walk away feeling overwhelmed. So I'm going to give you a quick 30-day plan. So take a look again. I've cleaned up the life cycle again here. Pick one specific workflow. Maybe it's a social campaign or a small product launch, right? Map out every single step within the stages here. Who's involved? What tools are you using? What features and functionality within these tools are you using? Where do the assets live? Where do things get stuck, right? Map them out on this circle, right? So week one is your audit and documentation. So document those pain points, those roadblocks along the way. Ask your team these poll questions we started with. Are we doing too much manually? Are your tools talking to each other? Is off-brand, unapproved content slipping through the cracks? Have we outgrown these processes, right? Ask your team, get them involved in these questions. Week two is identifying quick wins. Look at your audit, find the low-hanging fruit. What's one bottleneck you could eliminate this week? Maybe it's connecting your project management software to the DAM, or even just Outlook, right? So that you stop emailing attachments. Instead, you're really pulling assets from the DAM. Maybe it's creating an approval workflow that doesn't require chasing people down in Slack. So pick one thing, try to fix it and get that one quick win under your belt. All right, and then when week three, sorry, it's about a mouthful here, hits, then it's time to test integration opportunities, right? So speak to your Media Valet rep and ask them, look at your core tools and see what integrations or connectors exist that you're not using. So can your design tool push directly to your DAM? Or is your team loyal to a specific project management tool? Can an automation be placed so that when a project moves from in progress to done, it gets pushed directly to your DAM? Can your DAM connect to your distribution platforms, right? Are you using portals? Are you using experience portals? Test one integration and measure the time and value saved. And of course, leverage those automations. And then the final week, measure and iterate. Go back to that original workflow that you mapped out, run it again with your improvements. So how much time did you save? How many fewer emails or Slack messages did you send out or receive? How much faster did the content get out to market? Track your progress, because when you can show leadership that you have cut down a 5-day review and approval process down to 2 days, or that your team is spending X amount percentage less time hunting for files, that's when you get the budget and the buy-in to make bigger changes. And then finally, I didn't put it on the slide here, but really just keep that momentum going. I know it's hard when you're in the trenches, in the thick of it, but really track your progress and engage your team. We talked about those disconnected, siloed teams, right? This is your chance to get them excited. Chances are you're going to have an expert in one tool over here, and then another person, an expert on this tool over here. So map out those features and see how they can really be leveraged by your DAM. All right. And then also, again, not mentioned on the slide here, but I know I'm a bit biased, but our customer success team at Media Valley is really at the top of their game. They've heard so many different variations of these workflows, and they are amazing problem solvers when it comes to figuring out how to connect these stages to your workflow and really leveraging the DAM for what it's meant to be. All right, so I'm right at time, so I want to make sure that there's room for questions. And all right, so I have one question here. What are some of the most impactful integrations Media Valet has for marketing teams? All right, so I would say, again, I'm a little bit biased as I'm from product marketing, but one of the more exciting ones are some of the enhancements that we've done with our Monday.com integration. The automations there are super helpful. We've already seen teams really see a huge ROI on those. So being able, I think I mentioned it before, but being able to attach assets within your project boards in Monday.com, and then having that automation in place. So when something goes from in progress to done, it automatically goes to the correct place in your DAM. Another one helpful is mark templating. So again, a tool that's embedded within the dam. So you're not switching windows back and forth, right? Allowing teams to self-serve, use templates with guardrails in place within the dam to put your designers at ease and your brand teams at ease, but lets teams self-serve themselves. All right. Second question, what metrics should marketing leaders track to measure the ROI of dam integrations? Okay, ROI, how to measure ROI of dam integrations. Okay, so I think it's really good to work backwards. So if you look back at like the slide I had on challenges, time, budget, disconnected tech, and siloed teams, if we match those to results that we can actually measure, it's a good place to start. So I'd look at request volumes that hits time and budget. So time and budget saved, not recreating content. How fast can you go to market? Also look at automations. How is that saving you time? And then distribution channels, I would look at the portals, the metrics behind your portals. Are people visiting? Are they accessing the content? Are they downloading? Are they sharing? A majority of these, in fact, I think all that I mentioned can be easily accessed through the reporting module within the dam. So definitely connect with your CSM on that to see where you can get or make the best case. All right. Last question here. As AI and automation advance, how do you see marketing workflows evolve over the next few years? And what role will DAM play? It's a big question. First, I think I need to make a distinction between AI and automation. They're not the same thing. I am definitely not an AI expert, and I didn't bring it up in this presentation because I really wanted to focus on automations. So as AI advances, I actually see the DAM's role becoming more critical, not less critical. So right now we're seeing AI tools pop up everywhere, generative AI for creating variations, AI for tagging, AI for personalization. But I think the thing to understand here is that all of that AI needs to be fed with something, right? So it needs quality inputs, brand approved assets, proper governance for it to be safe to work, right? So the DAM becomes still is the foundation that makes all of your AI tools actually useful. Hope that helps. All right. Well, I went a little bit over time here, but I really wanted to thank you. Thank you for joining me here today for my session, but also DAM Week Fall at Media Valley. And if Ian's still around, I'd like to pass it on to you.
Thanks, Yumiko. Yeah, brilliant session. Really enjoyed that one. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone again just for tuning in for Dan Week and tuning in for Yumiko's session and all the other sessions we had over the past 2 days. Really love getting some questions from the audience and some interactions. But yeah, until 2026, we'll do another Dan Week. But until then, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.